Bonus!
Crew, what the hell is going on? Look out! Piper, now!
Here are these words. Hear the rhyme.
Crew, Piper, Page, look!
Hear now the words of the witches.
Keep it going, Phoebe.
Hear now the words of the witches. The words of the witches. The words of the witches.
Crew, Piper, Page, keep chanting.
Hear now the words of the
Keep
witches.
it going, Phoebe. Keep it going.
Hear now the words of the
Keep chanting.
words of the witches. Hear now the words of the
Finish the story.
Crew, Piper, Page, look! Keep chanting.
Hear now the words of the witches.
Keep chanting.
What ass backward spell did you guys cast?
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches.
Hear now the words of the witches.
Piper, Page, look!
The words of the witches. The words of the witches. Hear now the words of the witches.
Keep chanting.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Words of the Witches, a bonus episode. I think it's bonus 18, maybe. But it was kind of an unplanned event. I'm Kevin, the resident charmed resource, and I'm here with Galen, another charmed king of sorts.
Thank you.
Hi,
I
welcome
appreciate
back.
being here. I know, right? I feel like I'm right at home.
Oh yeah. Whenever we chat, it's like the best thing ever. It's like
Mhm.
two charmed crazies going at it.
Exactly. It's like Patty welcoming Paige in and just like saying, "Welcome home."
Yeah, yes. So, what's going on with you before we get into what we're going to talk about? What's happening? You got a lot
not
going on,
much.
actually.
Well, yeah.
From what I see.
Yeah, like I'm so used to saying not much that it just comes out naturally. I have a movie review podcast where I also review TV shows, and right now I am filming some episodes reviewing Wicked City, which is a supernatural show about Black witches in Atlanta. And several of the stars of the show have actually been on, and I've been able to talk with them and interview them. Yeah, so
That's super exciting. Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you?
I reached out to them. I was very scared at first because I was like, they're not gonna want to talk to me. And then when I did, they were like, yeah. And so I just felt like I got really excited because I started planning this in December. I started planning it at the end of November. And then I started talking to them in December because I was like, okay, now is the time. And I knew I wanted to do it in February during Black History Month. So I was like, the stars just kind
Perfect.
of aligned, and here we are. And I'm getting closer. I'm 20 followers away from 10K on TikTok.
Very
That
nice.
is
Congratulations.
Thank you. That is the first time I'll have ever hit that milestone. So I have that going on. School is going good for the most part. Work is going. So there's just a lot of moving pieces and other little random projects I'm working on. So yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I love watching your content's always great and hilarious and
Thank you.
amazing. So, and I need to watch Wicked City. I watched the trailer and it does look really good. I need to watch it because,
It grows
sounds
on
like
you.
a lot of fun.
I've seen some people say it took some time to grow on them, and it might. You may watch the first episode and be like, I don't want to watch this anymore. But to me, I think once you let the story unfold, I think you'll enjoy it.
Cool. I'm just waiting. I haven't started season 3 of this podcast yet because season 3 will be the guidebook season. We're going to cover the Book of Threes and all of the essay books but I can't do that until I finish my musical.
Yes. How is that going?
We're about 3/4 of the way done. I just have about half of Act 2 left to write and a few more songs left to write, and then we're pretty much done. Though we're ready to start casting.
Ooh.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I know.
That's exciting.
It's super exciting. It's a lot of fun. I think because we take a lot of the criticisms of the show and kind of address those in a lot of ways, and but also really honor the show, and us fans, we got to do it. So I think it will be good. I'm very excited for people to see it. So
yes,
yeah,
and just come to life. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you, and I'm excited to see it as a fan.
Yeah, and you'll probably be part of it. Come be in it.
I mean, that is true. I mean, I more than likely will. I'm just gonna be honest with you. So you let me
Cool.
know, and I'll be
Yeah.
there.
I'll be posting audition notices and sign up stuff, so we'll have to
Yes.
figure that
Yeah.
out.
And I love to sing.
I love.
So
Yeah, yeah. So today we're here to talk about what's going on in the Charmed world, and I don't always do this, but it's the Charmed drama. It's something I think it's something that you have to address because this is it's very important. It's very everywhere right now.
hmm
I don't know how we want to start in on this, but
well, I mean, I guess it's just to lay it all out, and start from the beginning.
from the
So,
beginning. So
do
people
you?
who don't know, back
Mhm.
in the day when Charmed was airing, and the whole hubbub about Shannen Doherty leaving, it's where it kind of sparks. What led to that? And no one ever really knew the real answer. And now things are being revealed and said and talked about in ways by
Mhm.
all of the actresses involved. And
Mhm.
yeah, and people are very in solidarity with their favorites. They
Yeah.
they go
Yeah.
they pick the side and they just go on that battle
Mhm.
for them.
Where do you want to?
um, well, let's start off with because I think all of them have had experiences. All of them
Mhm.
had traumas, and I don't want to discredit anybody's experience because I think all of them are valid.
Right.
Um, I also don't think it's fair to take someone's account of events at face value because it only
Mhm.
represents their side. Everyone
Mhm.
has a side to the story, and you can't just take one person's side of it.
Right.
So it comes down to each of them having to own up to their part in the conflict,
Mhm.
acknowledging the other people's pain,
Mhm.
apologizing, and moving forward. This isn't really happening so much.
Yeah.
um, but I have to let it out that I do admire all of the girls because there are girls. I think all of them
Right.
are very well spoken. All of them are very remarkable people, and respectable people. Um,
Mhm.
However, I think they all have their personality flaws and have taken actions or made statements that I know contributed to the conflict. All
Right.
of them. So it's not
Right.
just on one person. All of them have done this.
Yeah. So, and I think too, it's important to acknowledge that sometimes the tone of things when they're said can affect the way people perceive it.
Sure.
Um, Especially if you've experienced things in your own life. Um, so the tone of the way something is delivered can really affect it. And I think that's another part of the problem. The not problem, I don't mean the word problem, but what may be continuing the tension is the way that, whoever, it's not like you said, it's not on one person, but the way sometimes things are expressed may kind of continue to add on to what's
Right.
going on.
And part of why this is happening too is because we just had the MegaCon Orlando
Hmm.
and the panels
Yeah.
brought up some things, and the podcast, Shannon's podcast, and all of this stuff is happening now, and
Right.
fans are reacting.
Yes. Very much so.
I know. Okay, it's like I don't want to just know where to start. Well, let's just start with let's start with Shannon and Shannon's podcast because I think that's the one that kind of sparked everything right now. Um,
Yes.
Shannon had Holly on to talk about what
Hmm.
happened, and in it they talk about they kind of villainized Alyssa quite a bit. They weren't mean about it, but they obviously made it seem like everything was Alyssa's fault on that podcast. What they're saying, like her and her mom blocked Shannon from seeing her, and that she had a
Hmm.
case against them, like documenting a hostile work environment and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Alyssa didn't respond very directly. She kind of very like subtly, it's like, this is my reaction. I'm gonna like post something on my birthday, and you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And her follow-up react or her follow-up statements were interesting to hear. And it just, I think fans, like you said, take their sides. And as people who make charm content, I think that's why it's very important for us to sort of just focus on the show,
Yes.
because, people look at us, and, I can't tell you the number of comments that I've gotten, messages, like people will come in my lives and they'll just be like, what do you think about, this and that and da 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 da. And the people who follow me know that I don't comment on that kind of stuff. To be completely transparent, when I read what Alyssa wrote on Instagram, it was I felt a particular way about it. And probably for the first time in years, I put it up and I put my little opinion on it, and I very quickly took it down. Just because I realized, what's the point? And I didn't want to add to what's happening in the fandom. Because I think that there's a lot of hate being thrown at all of the actresses sort of unnecessarily. And I personally did not want to add to what was already going on. And so that's why I deleted what I said, because I was like, no. I was like, I'm not, I'm not going to put that and then go back and be like, well, don't throw hate at the actresses, because even though my statement wasn't towards her specifically, it was towards what she said. I can understand why, I needed to not be a part of that.
Yeah, we are charmed content creators. Yeah, I love that. And I love the alliteration because we have all the C's. But
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. And I generally do not engage in the banter. There's comments galore and people send me things. I definitely stay up on it. I see all the posts and I look at all of what's going on because it interests me and I need to know. But,
right.
But I do not engage because I know it becomes heated, unnecessarily heated.
Yes.
And no matter what you say is going to be the wrong thing to somebody.
Absolutely.
And there's enough of that with just them fighting. But at the same time, because we are charmed content creators, I feel our responsibility to at least make people aware of what's happening in a sense, and at least give perspective in a way.
Yeah.
So because you can't not talk about it,
right?
And at least address that it's happening. So I didn't see your post. I don't know what it was. But apparently it just sparked a reaction. Huh?
Yeah, it was very much a knee-jerk sort of like I think that when I read it, I saw it through a particular lens and sort of reacted to that. Because I do think that this whole thing it's a tough situation to be in. And it's kind of like you said, it's not on just one person. And that was one thing that I really focused on after Shannon's podcast, because, there were people like saying, oh, I can never look at Phoebe the same way. Phoebe's not, she was my favorite character. And I just thought, like, that is kind of ridiculous. Like, this is
it's very much irrelevant.
Yeah, like the character of Phoebe has absolutely nothing to do with this. And then on the other end of it, I saw people actively working to try to discredit Shannen and Holly. And, again, whether you agree with them or not, I'm not here to tell you that you should or shouldn't. My thing is just to be respectful. And I think that to say you are aware that everyone has their perspectives and you would never try to change that and you respect it, and then in the same breath say, oh, but that didn't happen because, especially when we don't know, we don't know what happened. We weren't there. So that's just my thing.
Because I remember after that podcast, I had so many friends like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm mad at Alyssa right now. I don't like, I'm like, see, the thing is, we need them all to sit down and talk to each other and give their side of the story and work it all out. And yes, fight maybe. But
No.
and even if it, I mean, I know. But at least the thing is, at least they would all have the opportunity to say what they need to say and defend their case.
Mhm.
And I think that would be the most realistic sense of everything.
Yeah. What bothers me too about this whole discourse is, these people are human, and
Yes.
we all say and do and whatever. And one thing I was scared of when Shannon's podcast initially came out was that the Charm fandom was going to make it, specifically about Charmed, when it's so much more than that. And they weren't going to listen to, the rest of, which am I saying they have to? No, because of course we're all kind of listening to the thing that's the most relevant to us. But, I was scared that people were going to try to like weaponize it almost. And I do feel like that happened to a certain extent, but I also, what bothers me on a personal level is just that this whole controversy is around like the reunion. Oh, they need to work it out so we can get the reunion. Oh, we need the reunion. We need the reunion. And that's where them being human comes in, and us as fans being able to accept we may never get a reunion.
Right.
And if we don't, that's perfectly fine, because we have 8 years of the show. You brilliantly have covered so much of the media outside of the show, and are continuing to do so, and bringing new light to it and bringing new perspective to it. And I think that that's the most important thing to focus on is
exactly
just what the show means to you personally, as opposed to I want the reunion now.
right. Everyone's on this nostalgic craze because that's the moneymaker, and they're like, well, where's the Charmed one? And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I would love to see a reunion, but it's not about us. This is all their drama. This is their lives. They're people who experience things, and everyone has their journey, and this is not meant to be. It's not meant to be. We have to accept that as an option.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so much to take in, and it's just
and that's why I always choose to focus on the show, because that's our context. That's what we know. We know the show. That's what they were explicitly show. All the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, yes, we get clues here and there, and there are the things that you can find, but nothing is ever fully there. We get pieces of the puzzle, but nothing that's ever complete.
And I think another important part of this is that, and one thing I had to come to when I first started really making content, and people would kind of ask me the same questions over and over and over, things like that. I got very frustrated. And I think in this situation, it's the same concept, that there are a lot of people, social media has opened up the world to each other. Like, it is opened up where you and I have connected. So many people around the globe are connected in a way they've never been before. And you have people who had kind of heard about, the quote unquote beef or the drama, and they never had anyone to talk to about it. They never had, friends who watched Charmed or anything like that. It might have been like one or two people here and there at their school or whatnot. But now those same people have access to people around the world, and they can say, oh, but the drama that happened, and then you get this long discourse about it. And as things are unfolding now, everyone has an opinion where they couldn't have one before. And they're eager to talk to the people that they watch talk about it. So I think that's another big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. So I have Alyssa Milano's response. Oh, Alyssa's always the one admitting her faults. She's admitting the responsibility, and she always voices her want to be together with everybody else.
I will say that I think that Alyssa is, in the responses that she gave recently, and I want to be very careful how I say this.
Right, it's tricky.
Like you said, like how they're very outspoken. I think that she's very outspoken in a subtle way. which can be interpreted a lot of ways, but I think that's the intention behind it. Is and from a marketing standpoint, from a PR standpoint, I can't say I would do any. I can't say I would do it differently, but I would also probably be a little bit more direct. But that tone, I think, is one thing that contributes, because it's, and just like you said with with Shannen and Rose, they're much more direct, and I think that the directness and the sort of passive aggressiveness sort of clash, and it creates tension where there shouldn't be any within the fandom, because I think the fandom also really perpetuates a lot of it. So, you have people that will like are diehard Alyssa fans, and they're like, well, she didn't say anything wrong. And same with Shannen, and Rose, and it's a lot of semantics and a lot of tonal issues that just keep propelling it forward, unfortunately. So,
and Holly is hard to read because she kind of goes back and forth between her friends. She's like, I'm friends with you now. I'm friends with you. I do want to recommend, because we're not going to get into it all here, but there's this YouTuber called Weirdly Beloved. Have you heard of her? Oh, she's been doing some charmed content. Yesterday, she posted she does her research, some very in-depth coverage. Why Shannen was the problem, why Alyssa was the problem, and why Holly was the problem, on all the different stances on where they all could have contributed to this. It's very well done, and you can see where all of their faults lied and where things were. And I think it's very fascinating. So I would recommend those.
Especially after my little moment, I was like, I'm not going to tell you what she said. I'm just going to say, go look at it, listen to it, whatever you want to do, and make a decision for yourself. Because there's just so many perspectives on it already.
Shannen read a statement. Yeah, I can see it was very emotional for her. And yeah, she's definitely gone through stuff. I feel like she's definitely hurt by the experience, but she is stubborn in her unwillingness to become friendly again. She kind of...
Yeah, and I think too, though, it's important to remember, Shannen has a terminal illness.
Right.
And I'm not trying to excuse anything by saying that. I am saying that, something she said really struck a chord with me, that she wanted to tell her story in her words. And that's what I hate the most about this situation, is that, right or wrong, she was telling her perspective, and now it has turned like into this back and forth. Right. And I'm just gonna be honest with you, I probably would stay steadfast in it myself. Just because
you don't want to have the added stress on your life. You want to make sure you're healthy.
On your life, exactly.
Adding that stress would just make things harder for you. Yeah.
Especially because from her perspective, and I know we're not going to get into it. I'm just going to say this one statement. From her, I guess I'm just trying to.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
We
can get into it a little bit.
From her perspective, she feels like she has spent most of her career with this over her head, a narrative over her head, even back from 90210. And I feel like now she's at a place where it's like, this is my story. This is how this affected me. Her entire career back to 90210 has had a certain narrative put on her. And I think that that's another reason why she's so feet in the ground, I'm not budging on this, is from her perspective, she's, allowed this to go on, and she doesn't want to. Now, again, like I said, that I'm not saying that, anything is right or wrong. I'm just, saying that's why I feel she's feeling the way she is right now.
I do know, like, some of the guest stars, Holly said on the podcast that, the guest stars didn't know we were fighting. They knew.
Yeah. Like, I've seen people every now and again, like when I make a video, I might make one on the tension between the characters of Prue and
Right.
Phoebe,
And people always
like
try
in
to bring it
season
back to
one.
the actresses.
And they will bring it back to the actresses and be like, oh, well, I think their real life tension made this better and da-da-da-da and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's not the point. It's, I feel like I'm constantly having to defend a character because people have associated what they think they know about these actresses. I know I
Right.
have people that,
And they're not the same.
They're not the same at all. They'll be like, oh, I'm glad Prue left because Shannen was da-da-da-da. And I'm like, hey, like stop. Like, put a stop to that,
Yeah.
or, people will be like, who do you like, Prue or Paige or whatever else? And, Shannen didn't like Rose. I'm like, come on, let's stop, Number one,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing in all of this to me is that we don't know these people.
Right.
And those parasocial relationships have just taken hold. And Charmed is one of those shows that I think people really relate to one character or another. And especially if you watch a show at a time where you were particularly emotional, you kind of take that person on as a vision of yourself and what you would like to be. This person ended up happy and that's what I want to be. And I think that that's why people defend their favorite character so vehemently. But I also feel like that's where the actress and character kind of, collision happens. I don't like the character of Prue, and so by extension, I don't like Shannen.
I don't like the actress, right?
Yeah, Phoebe was never my favorite, and so now Alyssa is, and vice versa. I heard Shannen was da 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 da, and so that's why Prue does this, or Rose was so blah 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 blah, and that's why Paige did that, and it's just it's tiring.
It's so tiring. People see something or they have an idea of the reputation when the thing is, people are layered. They have, just like characters, they have good points and bad points. They make mistakes. They do really remarkable things. It's all of us. And so you can't define somebody by one aspect or one rumor or one, tabloid.
Right.
And, the media is going crazy for this. They love this.
Oh,
Let's make all the headlines, all the news.
When you're watching it from the perspective, I think unless someone has done something absolutely heinous that is like illegal, then we can move into the territory of I'm not watching that because I don't want to support this person. But if it's just a rumor that one person was a bad person or one person did, then I think we should just kind of put that to the side. Because it is a show that was a part of such a, a huge part of a lot of our lives. And like I said, unless someone is making some, some other kind of comments or has physically harmed another person, I think we should, it's okay to still watch the show as a show.
And all of them are strong women. They all have causes. They all have something they're fighting for, something that they want to support and believe in. And that's really all admirable stuff. And I think if we focus on all the good things they do, that's a more unifying venture.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you keep that in mind, I think it's much easier to watch a show, because people, I think, have started to go back kind of and try to watch scenes to, oh, you can see the tension here. You can see this there. You can, and I just, that's what really breaks my heart is people going through intentionally trying to find and create, some sort of drama or discourse. There's one scene in particular from season 2 in a witch trial. And, when Prue breaks down over Andy, and people are like, you can see the tension there. And I was like, well, maybe Shannen was just going through something else, or maybe she's just a good actress, or maybe, whatever. And it's like, no, we can't see the tension. You just see an actress, and I'm sure there were things maybe things happening behind the scenes that were fueling that moment, but it's like, let's not try to make that about some drama.
I know. I think Shannon did talk about that scene before and things. I think it was
Because, like, her dad was sick.
more of her dad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her dad was sick. There was a lot of that happening around that time. And I think I think that was what was overwhelming to her. I just think trying to create something where we don't know that there was something is detrimental, because then you're not watching the show to watch it. You're watching it to figure it out. You're playing Inspector Gadget and trying to find a little, trying to find a little morsel.
And yeah, people have said conflicting things. People have changed. And that's see, we haven't even addressed the environment, the producers, the studios.
Yes.
That was probably the biggest factor of them all. All the men running that show. They even put a prank on Shannen. I forget when. I think I might have mentioned in the podcast where they said that she won the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a prank. I'm like, that's really kind of a shitty thing to do to somebody.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah. Especially when, this was when she was trying to pay for her dad's medical bills and things like that.
Yeah. And, this was the early 2000s where, like, the girl beefs, quote unquote, I say girl, but, the female beefs were, you had Britney versus Christina. They were trying to put, like, around that time. It was a little bit after that, but, like, Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan going at it over, like, Aaron Carter. There was always somebody. Even if you look at, like, soap operas, there's always, like, a behind the scenes of, oh, this person hated this person, this woman hated that one, and they used to fight incessantly. And there's just always a need for something to be salacious. There's always a need, I think, especially when two women are in the same realm, I think there always has to be the perceived good one versus the perceived bad one. So, Britney was like the sweet, innocent one. And, Christina Aguilera was like the dirty girl who was, seductive and whatever else. Hilary Duff was the sweet little just taut. And then, Lindsay Lohan is the wild child. There's all, even in this dynamic, there was a particular narrative, I feel like, that was created around these two. And it's a tale as old as time, even Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, my God. It goes back. There's, like, just in the past 5 years, they made the show Feud about that. It is literally a tale as old as time. It's like wherever there are two
ingrained in the culture. Yeah.
It is. It is.
I guess they've decided that that's what sells, and people are still going to, whether it's, people live for that, and whether it's falsified or truth or somewhere in between, people just go crazy.
Yeah, that's why. And I know I'm just being a little extra at this point, but that's why people still to this day talk about Anne Boleyn and Catherine the Great. Is like, Catherine the Great was the loyal wife who stayed true to her husband to the very end. And Anne Boleyn was just this hussy that came in and stole this man and changed the nation, and people are still captivated by that. And that was hundreds of years ago. And, people are still talking about it. So,
I definitely think it was a man's world in that set, even though the show is about women. We all know Brad Kern and his kind of heart and things.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was on him. A lot of it was people I don't even know, people who worked on the show.
Right.
And and the fact that Constance left was probably a big turning point too, because she was the person who created the show, had a huge vision for the show. And they even pushed her out because it was too much for her to deal with. So,
and I think that's another thing that's really important when we start to hear hear their perspectives. Is their perspective entirely true or false? No. Especially because, like you said, there were forces behind the scenes. So one party may fully think that what they said is true because that is what they experienced, because there were people manipulating events to make them feel like that, where the other party had a completely different experience. Because, I mean, that's why I don't care for people trying to discredit anyone,
Right.
anybody involved,
No.
and just because we don't
Mhm.
know what that person was told, or what they saw, or what they thought they saw, what they were shown, anything like that. And so it's just a kibosh of,
The kibosh.
hmm
Yeah. Yeah.
you're a very likable person, and you know that's one of the things that I aspire to do, is be, I guess, put myself out there, like the way that you just know people and you've talked to people, things like that. I really admire that. And that is where I'm hoping this career that I can hopefully one day make into a career takes me,
hmm
is
I
to
think you're
that.
doing lots of really good stuff, really fun stuff. I'm admiring your work all the time. So
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm
yeah.
trying to, I'm really trying to like amp it up in 2024. Like, I made a promise to myself that this year would be the year that I do well and succeed. And if I don't, it's not going to be because I didn't try. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Good for you.
Yep, yep.
Well, on that note, I think we did our piece. We did our stuff. Tell people where they can
Yeah.
find all your goodness. Oh my gosh.
Ah, so you can find me on TikTok at They Call Me Mr. G. They call me Mr. Underscore G. If you want to join the family, then please do so. We have our own little coven over there. You can find me on Instagram at They Call Me Mr. Period G. And I also have a movie review Instagram called Mr. G Reviews. And you can find me, pretty much anywhere there's a social media platform. You can find me at They Call Me Mr. G. That's my thing. That's my
Mhm.
moniker.
Yes, beautiful. I just your videos are so good. All your like parody videos or your like
Yeah.
Ratchet Charm stuff, all your TikToks. I
Thank
I
you.
enjoy them so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think more people need to watch them. So go
They
do
they
that.
really do. Like, they need to immediately. That's my request, is that please go back and watch it
Mhm.
if you have the time and the ability.
There's something that I've been wanting to do for a while, like kind of a funny charm video. I
Mhm.
haven't done it yet, and it's like it's in my brain. So
Ooh.
when I do that, you'll be the first to know.
Yes, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to support it and share it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and you can find So, people, this was a surprise bonus episode. Next on the agenda will be the musical. Before we get too far away from the comics, and then season 3.
Yes.
So I think we'll probably next time you'll see us will probably be on February 26th ish, because that will be the 3-year anniversary of the podcast.
Oh,
I
congratulations.
know. Thank you. And because we probably won't have the musical done yet, we'll just give you an update on where we are with the project. And then, yeah, keep everybody informed and celebrate. So, yeah, and that's Words of the Witches, all the places if you don't know. Instagram,
Exactly.
Facebook, and YouTube. Yeah. So, we'll see you soon, Spellworders. Your destiny still awaits. Ah!